Hey everybody, it's me, Lily Rose, the admin here at Encouragement Corner on Facebook, and we are continuing on today in the book of Judges, chapter 6. If you missed the last two chapters, go back and read them. It is a wonderful story about a woman named Deborah, who was a judge, and another woman named Jael that got the task done. She obeyed the Lord. They both did. And God used them mightily, and it's spoken of right here in the Old Testament. It's wonderful. Now we're going to move on to a man named Gideon. Maybe you're familiar with him if you've been to Sunday school as a child. But let's dive in and see how the Word of God introduces Gideon. It says the Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight. What a surprise, right? So the Lord handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. The Midianites were so cruel that the Israelites made hiding places for themselves in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, marauders from Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east would attack Israel, camping in the land and destroying crops as far as Gaza. They left the Israelites with nothing to eat, taking all the sheep, goats, cattle, and donkey. So they're burning all the crops down, right? And then they're taking all the other sources of food. These enemies, hordes, coming with their livestock and tents, were as thick as locusts. They arrived on droves of camels too numerous to count, and they stayed until the land was stripped bare. So Israel was reduced to starvation by the Midianites. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help. When they cried out to the Lord because of Midian, the Lord sent a prophet to the Israelites. He said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of slavery in Egypt. I rescued you from the Egyptians and from all who oppressed you. I drove out your enemies and gave you their land. I told you, I am the Lord your God. You must not worship the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you now live. But you've not listened to me." Then the angel of the Lord came and sat beneath the great tree of Ophrah, which belonged to Joash, the clan of Abiezar. Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of a wine press to hide the grain from the Midianites. So he's down deep in a pit thing where they press wine, and he's flushing out his grain. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "Mighty hero, the Lord is with you." Do you think as he's hiding in a hole that he's feeling like a mighty hero at the moment? It says, "Sir," Gideon replied, "if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say the Lord brought us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites." Then the Lord turned to him and said, "Go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you." "But Lord," Gideon replied, "how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the whole tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least in my entire family." Do you love how God chooses people? Don't think it's the most powerful and the most gorgeous and the most eloquent or well-spoken. He goes down into the pits, guys, and he chooses not necessarily the ones that you would think are ready and able-bodied, but the ones he calls, the weakest, the ones who will obey him, right? I love it. But the Lord said to him, "I will be with you, and you will destroy the Midianites as if you were fighting against one man." Gideon replied, "If you are truly going to help me, show me a sign to prove that it's really the Lord speaking to me. Don't go away until I come back and bring my offering to you." He answered, "I will stay here until you return." Gideon hurried home. He cooked a young goat, and with a basket of flour, he baked some bread without yeast. Then, carrying the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, he brought them out and presented them to the angel who was under the great tree. The angel of God said to him, "Place the meat and the unleavened bread on this rock and pour the broth over it." Gideon did as he was told. Guys, they were starving at this point. So Gideon knows who he's talking to right now. And And that enables him in obedience to come and bring this offering. I think it's beautiful, and I don't want you to miss that. Gideon did as he was told. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and bread with the tip of the staff in his hand, and fire flamed up from the rock and consumed all he had brought. And the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he cried out, "O sovereign Lord, I'm doomed. I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." "It is all right," the Lord replied. "Do not be afraid. You will not die." And Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and named it Yahweh Shalom, which means the Lord is peace. The altar remains in Ophrah, in the land of the clan of Abiezer, to this day. That night the Lord said to Gideon, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one that is 7 years old. Pull down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole standing beside it. Then build an altar to the Lord your God here on the hilltop sanctuary, laying the stones carefully. Sacrifice the bull as a burnt offering on the altar, using as fuel the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord commanded. There's obedience, guys. There's a beauty in obedience. But he did it at night because he was afraid of